guy that. How's it going, Daniel, Leo, Sean here for VAR and Espresso. We have the quarterfinals set, and we have some intriguing matches in the quarterfinals. After Manchester City's meltdown, the top half of the bracket is wide open. The bottom half of the bracket is not. What did you think about the matches yesterday?
I feel very smug because exactly what I predicted would happen. Although not that genius, because obviously I just said the two favourites were going to win. But it was a lot less unpredictable in nature. As the day before was chaotic joy. It was fantastic to watch. Whereas this was a lot more, a lot more as expected. The more dominant side, quote unquote, or rather the bigger side, showed quality in the right moments and more or less controlled the games. There are a few bits here and there where things could have gone differently, which we'll get into later. But yeah, I think two sort of mature performances from the two favourites.
I was interested. The Dortmund match, which we'll start with the later match, and I don't know if you guys had a watch the full game. You probably watch highlights. Dortmund had a chance in the first 20 or so minutes to just end the match. Grassi had 2 early goals. It could have been like 3 or 4, and it really probably should have been. I mean, Grassi should have had a hat trick within probably 20 minutes easily. He did score the 2, but this game could have really put away, and then they didn't. And then Monterrey scores, and all of a sudden, it's kind of it was an interesting final, 40 minutes of the match. I thought Monterrey kind of hung in there and made a good accounting for themselves. And obviously the first game was an interesting game after the tactical thing at the beginning. Juventus was kind of outplaying them. They made a slight tweak and changed it and ended up finding a goal and, I think getting more control of the game. But Leo, I mean, which of those two were you more surprised with?
I'm no surprise.
Or not surprised?
From neither result, because we talked about it yesterday, and the favorites have won their games. So, but I have to notice that, Daniel, you must be disappointed by the Dortmund-Monterrey result, because there will be no reunion between Sergio Ramos and Real Madrid, no between the Bellingham brothers.
Yeah, that's the cruel twist, isn't it? Joe Bellingham picked up a yellow card, which means he's suspended for the quarterfinal. So we were wondering about the narrative of either the Bellingham brothers or Sergio Ramos and Canales facing their former club. And we're not going to get any of it. It's just going to be two teams now.
Yeah. But yeah, it was quite funny to see that Dortmund didn't actually dominate this game. They didn't have the possession. They didn't shot more than Monterrey. But they have Guirassy, and Guirassy did some Guirassy, scoring 2 more vital goals for Dortmund, as he did during the whole season. And something I wanted to note, and we will talk about it when we will come to Real Madrid-Juve, is it's that the goalkeepers are making a big impact in that competition. There are a lot of great performances from them. We talk about them every day because they're quite brilliant, to be honest. And if I can say something I didn't like, of course, it was there was again some deplorable behavior from the fans with homophobic chants. So just like what happened during the River Inter game, it's images we don't want to see in football.
I mean, I completely share that sentiment, Leo. I was reading about it this morning, and apparently it has become just a thing in Mexican football when the goalkeeper. We've got something not dissimilar in England, right? So when a goalkeeper at any level in football, when a goalkeeper goes to take a goal kick, there's this big build-up from the crowd of, oh, and he hits it, and then you say, you're, insert bad word here, but it's childish and it's playful, but essentially it's non-offensive. Whereas what's become in Mexico is using a homophobic slur in that spot, essentially, which is completely unacceptable. Always has been, but especially in this day and age. And it was interesting how it took a while for the warning to happen in the stadium. But of course, before any risk of abandonment could be implemented, the game was finished. It seemed a bit late to sort of make that threat. But also, it's important, I suppose, considering it's the Club World Cup, the considerable number of people are watching this and they will see this, and hopefully they will share in the condemnation. And only in that can you get change.
Sean, what did you think about that game?
Guirassy is a good player, obviously. I thought, I thought that Dortmund really, I think I talked about this, Dortmund really should have been clear. Watching in the first half, you see, Guirassy scores, and then he scores again, and then within 5, 6, 7 minutes, he had a couple chances. Him and Adeyemi were linking up. I mean, the assist was fantastic for the first goal. And they were just tearing Monterrey apart. Just on the break. I mean, they had just had chances to make it 3-0, 4-0, and then it would have been an easy game to get them off. Maybe Bellingham doesn't have to take that stupid foul. I mean, I don't even know why he does it, because it's non-consequential to the game at that point. I mean, you're going away from goals along the touchline. It doesn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden, get to halftime, and the goal happens. Monterrey scores, and then match switches, and then all of it, you look at the stats, and Monterrey's peppering the goal in the second half, and Monterrey had the possession, and they had some chances, and I think Dortmund made it a little bit tougher match than it really had to be if they scored the third goal. I mean, when you're up 2-0. I always say that the next goal is the most important. It either kills the game or and makes it a tight game again, and that's exactly what happened. Interesting. We have some more rematches, Champions League final rematches on the one side of the bracket. We have the rematch from 2024 and 2020, but I think. I don't think the winner. Just watching both games, I don't think. I think the winner of PSG and Bayern will be in the final. I just don't think that Dortmund or Real Madrid right now is as good as those other teams. I think Real Madrid's in the middle of a rebuild, not a rebuild, but a rebrand almost. You see the way they're, Xabi Alonso wants to play the 3-4-3, and it's just a little bit different. So. It clicked in the game yesterday, but I think if I had to say, the winner of the PSG Bayern match is probably going to be in the final on that side.
And it could. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. I've got a long point.
It could have been quite different if Sergio Ramos had scored his header at the very end of the game.
Yep.
He scored so much of these goals during his career that it's quite weird to see him not completed that one. And Dortmund are kind of lucky if we just take that part of the game. Go on, Daniel, now.
Let's see. Yes. Well, I mean, actually, I was going to compare. There are two moments in both of the matches from yesterday which could have changed everything. So, just briefly touching on the Real Madrid game, but in the 8th minute, 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐜𝐤 was sent through 1-on-1, and he lifted the ball over Courtois, and it landed on the roof of the net. Now, had Moani scored that, Juventus would have been 1-0 up within 10 minutes, and perhaps we have a different game. Likewise, in the Dortmund-Monterrey match, Monterrey come out the second half, greater intensity. This is something that we've spoken about over the last couple of days, where these Southern and Central American teams seem to be catching European teams cold, either at the start of the match or at the beginning of the second half. And Monterrey did just that with a very good goal. But in the 60th minute, 𝐊𝐤𝐜𝐤 was sent a gorgeous through ball for Corona to run onto, completely untroubled and undefended, 1-on-1, and it's saved. And also that's the thing. Like, so with a half an hour to go, Monterrey would have been 2-2, having come back from 2 goals, and would have been in the ascendancy. They would have had momentum. So that could have changed everything as well. So yeah, it's quite interesting how 2 very specific moments like that in each game actually could have changed the entire story of the quarterfinals. But as it is, in those individual moments of quality, they were lacking, which can quite often in football is the difference between a good side and a quality side, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what did you think about, you were talking about that Corona's chance. What did you think? Was it a penalty or not?
No. I mean, again, the thing is, it's also hard because we've already seen in this competition that the interpretation of different rules in a different competition is confusing, because suddenly, we saw a handball yesterday leading up to the first Manchester City goal that wasn't given as a handball, and you are very much confused. Why? Surely that is a universal rule as opposed to interpreting it differently in different competitions. And also, we've seen some very soft penalties given in this tournament. And I don't mean specifically from like referees from different nationalities or whatever, but it just seems to be that it hasn't taken much for its decision to be overturned by the referee after VAR or so on and so on. So yeah, it's but I'm grateful that one wasn't given, because that would have been pathetic.
But to be honest, Zula's move wasn't soft at all. We clearly saw he pushed him in the back, but I agree with you, it was not enough to give a penalty to.
But it's just, that is a universal thing. A defender will lean into you as you take a shot. But you have to be stronger. You can't just fall over and expect a penalty. Something I would like to touch on, though, before we move away from the Dortmund match. Leo, you might remember this, but early on in the tournament, specifically Dortmund's opening game against, was it Fluminense? I was very critical of their formation, because they lined up in a 3-4-2-1 with Adeyemi and Julian Brandt, I think it was, as like the 2 number 10s. And I was very critical of it because you don't get much attacking output from Svensson on the left or Riesen on the right as wing backs. They seem to be more like very good defensive. Well, I describe both of them as fullbacks, to be honest, as opposed to wing backs. Wing backs, you need more attacking output. And they seem quite blunt, and they seem quite, for me, it didn't work. They switched to a 3-5-2 for this game, and it looked much, much better. But this leads into a problem, which is the 3-5-2 works because they have 3 central midfielders in Bellingham, in Gross, in Mecca. And there was a really nice balance between who was going forward and supporting the 2 front men, who was staying back. It works. But it is a counter-attacking formation in this context. Obviously, Inter have used that, historically used that formation, and it's been attacking. This is a counter-attacking side, especially when you got Adeyemi, who obviously everyone knows his pace is terrifying. And the second goal came from Riesen winning the ball in his own half, and then just playing one long ball down the flank, which Adeyemi runs onto, cuts inside, plays the ball into the path of Jurisi, who finishes. That's excellent counter-attacking. But Dortmund, and sorry, this big intro for my main point, but Dortmund have been in this strange headspace for the last 5 or 6 years, where they're a big side in Germany, and yet they have the squad which really only attacks. Well, maybe not the past 5 years, but ever since Haaland left, essentially. Their players are so quick and they're so skillful in transition, but they don't seem to have the technical players to play in tight spaces, to sort of to feed opportunities from either the half space or the wings it always seems to be they play best when they're the more defensive side. And they were playing Monterrey. Now, Dortmund should be, quote unquote, should be the more dominant side. They have far larger wage structure. They have more expensive players, this, that, and the other. And yet they only had 42% possession against Monterrey.
Yeah.
And you've got to question why, what was the plan for Dortmund over the last few years? Because they've tried to become a more dominant side, and it hasn't worked every single time they've done it. Under, I think there's the third manager now in 4 years. Each time they've tried to implement a new attacking dominant style, it hasn't worked. Then a new manager comes in and just reverts to the counter-attacking, and it works. So, yeah, it seems like they seem to be stuck, and I'm not sure what the fix is, because they don't seem to have the players to change. They have a team that is very, very good on the counter-attack.
And they didn't really change their squad since I don't know how many years, because 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐜𝐤, Brandt, 𝐊𝐢𝐜𝐤𝐤, okay, they added Schlotterbeck in the back four. They added Ryerson. They added some players, but it's quite the same profiles between with these players. So I completely understand what you say, and if I can recall a goal that perfectly illustrates that idea of a counter-attack team is the one against Chelsea 2 years ago. I don't know if you remember 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤 running all the way to the goals after an attacking corner from Chelsea, and it was the Borussia Dortmund I used to watch in the Bundesliga, and yeah, even in the championship, they are not a dominant side. They are always how can I say that? 𝐊𝐤𝐤𝐤 has been one of the best players of Dortmund last season, so it says something about that team.
Well, we should point out it was only 2 seasons ago that Dortmund could have won the title, and they blew it on the last day of the season.
Yeah. And the Champions League.
And of course, reached the final of the Champions League last season. So we are talking about a good side. It's just it's mixed messages almost.
Yeah.
And obviously it's unfair to compare everybody to managers like Thomas Tuchel or Jurgen Klopp. But it does seem like after Klopp, who had such a distinct identity tactically, and Tuchel, who is such a good manager of any team, it seems. It was always going to be difficult to follow that, but it seems they haven't quite got it right in regards to tactical identity.
Yeah.
Sorry, slight tangent, Sean. Should we go on to the Real Madrid game?
Yeah, we'll talk about this. Kind of wasn't. It's a little boring, to be honest, but the Real Madrid got the job done, and I don't know, maybe this is the way they're going to play now. And Mbappe's back, so that was good. The kid Garcia scores again, but
he's having so the Spanish pressers have made comparisons to Raul with the way he moves and the fact that he's quite short but good in the air and all of that. I mean, I can see the comparison, but obviously very early to tell. But he's done so well in this tournament.
Yeah.
And that the thing is with he's one of these guys. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they were going to do something. Maybe they're going to put him on loan. Maybe he was going to be a backup. Maybe he's going to be something. And then all of a sudden now he scores every match. Now, hey, now I got to say, I mean, maybe I got to play him. Maybe maybe he's in our plans. And that's what happens. I mean, these young kids, they take your chance, and then you can't come out of the lineup. Obviously he will come out when Mbappe's back, but maybe he's the first guy off the bench now. Maybe they rotate. Maybe they, maybe they sell Rodrigo now because they say, hey, we got this guy. Maybe we can get 100 million for Rodrigo from Arsenal or something like this.
Yeah. And what was interesting with him yesterday, it's that he was nowhere to be seen before the goal. I didn't know he was on the pitch actually. But one chance was enough for him. He's kind of a killer, and as we said, I think last week, if I was Hendrik, I would work twice or 3 times more, because now he has a serious contender as a backup for Mbappe.
Yeah, true. Although we should remember that Garcia is actually a couple of years older than Hendrik. Because obviously Hendrik moved when he was 18. So slightly further ahead in, say, physical development, things like that. And also, being from Spain helps as well. So perhaps you think about moving to a new country, readjusting, especially where it's so far away. Picking up what Sean said, the first half was a bit dull. But it's also, as I said before, like it had Juventus put their one chance away. Suddenly that forces Real Madrid's hand, and perhaps it's a different match. But Moani did miss it. And yeah, I was just going through it until half time. Not much, only a couple of chances for Real. But whatever happened at half time worked because I made notes so talk about Gonzalo Garcia. He was substituted off in the 68th minute for Mbappe. So he was on the pitch in the second half for 23 minutes. But in that time, something clicked between the front line because Real Madrid suddenly, in the opening 10 minutes, were firing chance after chance after chance at the Juventus goal. Valverde volleying wide from a tight angle. There was this wonderful counter-attack through Vinicius, which almost led to a goal. Bellingham had another shot saved. A minute later, a minute after that, Dean Huijsen had a volley saved. A corner that was caught. So this 10-minute period where Real were building up pressure, but Gonzalo Garcia was in among it. The subtlety is in that, say, for example, that striker slot. If Vinicius Junior is pulling left, he's the one either staying still or moving to the right. And and quite often sort of like just those little runs just don't do anything because most of the plays going through Vinicius Junior, not Gonzalo Garcia, for obvious reasons. But what he's very good at is, as I think we discussed this yesterday or the day before, he seems to be more of a classic poacher in regards he seems to stick between the posts and finishes really, really nicely. And also a shout out for Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's obviously thrown in at the deep end. New language, new team, all of this, and a new tactical setup with a new manager. It was always going to be difficult, but he showed what he could contribute in an attacking threat. I mean, he had the assist for the goal, which was a lovely cross for Gonzalo Garcia to head powerfully into the rear of the net. But also before the tournament, I think a lot of people were asking why Real Madrid would spend 10 million euros to sign Trent Alexander-Arnold a month early, because that's a lot of money. But in that single act, that has actually paid off, because each round you go through in this competition, you earn at least, I think it's $10 million. So in just setting up that one goal, that's already paid his transfer fee. So it seems like the decision to bring Trent in early and spend 10 million euros on him has already paid dividends, has it not?
Yeah, I think you're right. In my opinion, what changed between the first and the second half was the tactical system, because we clearly saw during the first 45 minutes that Real Madrid had a back five line, very, very defensive, a very, very defensive one. I think they were afraid after Colomwani's and Yildiz attempts to shots. Yildiz start to the game was extraordinary, and then he vanished a little bit. But yeah, after the break, Real Madrid stepped up the pace in the second half. And what's funny is that if you just look at the statistics, they had more great chances with fewer shots in the first 45 minutes than they got in the second. So it's quite paradoxal when you just watched the game, not only the statistic. And we have to, even if Juve is lost, we have to give credit to Di Gregorio, who made a terrific performance yesterday.
Yeah, 10 saves. 10
saves. And he's the keeper with the most saves in the competition. And his saves were practically all crucials, because I think there is a save and a save. and he did a lot of great saves.
Yeah, there was one right at the end of the first half. Valverde shot from 30 yards.
Yeah,
he managed to tip it round. Like that was a very good one.
Yeah, so it was interesting, and at the end, seeing what Real Madrid produced in the second half, it was quite normal, logical to see them win, and they could have win more, much more than 1-0 if it wasn't for Di Gregorio.
Yeah, it might actually be a bit of a positive for Xabi Alonso, because in the first half, what you saw was Real Madrid being a bit more, as you say, a bit more defensive. But obviously, it was quite obvious that Yildiz and Moani was pulling off to the left, and Yildiz and Moani were basically double teaming Trent.
Yeah.
So therefore pinning him back. And they're getting a lot of success down that left. And actually, they seem to be setting up in a 5-2-3 sort of formation defensively, with Bellingham on the right, and that's considering he has more defensive. He's more strict defensively than say some like 𝐊𝐤𝐤. Probably gives more cover for Trent. But that was interesting. And yet in the second half, it changed and they got more control forward. But the other thing I was going to raise, which I found quite interesting, was initially, it's like every time they had a set piece, you have 𝐊𝐤𝐤 and Trent Alexander-Arnold standing over it, one being right-footed, one being left-footed. Now, initially, to me, for example, at a corner, I would say that you don't need two players at a corner because obviously then you could have another player somewhere else, either covering or whatever. But it showed time after again, especially in the second half, that actually it worked, because what happened quite often would be the initial corner was headed away, but then it would be recycled, and then you'd have two players who would be perfectly complementing each other, because one would, like, one's right-footed, one's left-footed, one goes inside, one goes outside, and actually caused real difficulties for the Juventus defense. So not only just the initial set piece, but also the second phase.
And what I also liked was the fact that 𝐊𝐤𝐤 he had a creative role yesterday, closer to his defense. He tried to make the link between the defense and the attack in one touch by playing in one touch, and we could see it's not his specialty. He's not used to play like that, but I think he will be good because he's technically gifted. We all know it, and I think with Xabi Alonso it will be even better.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, I completely forgot that I think it was only 4 or 5 months ago where there were discussions about 𝐊𝐤𝐤 perhaps leaving. But he was talking with the sporting director or director of football, I forget which one. And apparently they were saying that their big plan was for him to be the replacement for Modric. So their big vision for him wasn't coming in off the right or being a number 10. Their vision was to be a creative central, like a practical central midfielder. And so we've seen that in this tournament so far, and you see the limitations defensively. But again, he's young and he's learning a new position.
Yeah.
But you do see what he offers from that, though. Like you say, like a lot of his passes were those lovely, like outside of the foot, instinctive balls out for Vinicius Jr. I mean, from what I've seen, you can see it, right? You can see the thought process.
Yeah. And you, Sean, what did you think about that Real Madrid knockout game?
I watched the video of Xavi talking after the match about how they changed a little bit, and they're work in progress. Last year, they have a lot of talent, but they just they just didn't work. It didn't work sometimes with the players on the pitch with Vinny and Mbappe. And Rodrigo and Bellingham and all these players they have, and I think they're going to try to start tweaking that over the next couple weeks and the summer and all this stuff. I think if Real Madrid wins this tournament, I think it would be obviously I'm not Perez doesn't want to lose tournaments, and obviously Real Madrid is always a team that wants to win every competition they're in, but this is just to get them going for the season, to try to go at Barcelona and try to get back in the Champions League and try try to kind of do all this stuff. I mean, it's going to take a little time for it to click with them. You could tell, just in matches it did that yesterday. I thought, once again they were better in the second half, but it's going to be. I think when they get going, it's going to be pretty good to watch. I think they're going to be tough to beat, but right now, I just they're a step below PSG right now, and they're probably a step below. They're probably Bayern, Bayern on that level. They're probably, I would say they're probably the second favorites to Barcelona at this point. By the halfway through the season, if everything clicks with this new system, it could be, they could be unbeatable. I mean, you just don't know if they're going to give a lot of goals, the way they play, but it'd be interesting. I think, as we get through this and we start talking about quarterfinal previews, I think that match, and I think that's the last match, correct?
Yeah.
I think it'll be very interesting. They'll play at 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday at MetLife. Be a big crowd there. It's after we have varsity and JV. Here in America, the varsity is up here. JV is like the junior varsity. So the heavyweight clash is PSG and Bayern at 12, and there'll be no weather issues with that. And then obviously the other match will be a little bit kind of in the shadow, even though it's a rematch of the Champions League final and it's from 2024. But I think all eyes will be on that PSG Bayern match before that.
Yeah, I think too.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go on.
Thank you. No, I was going to say. No. Oh, that was it. Regarding what Sean was saying about the potential for attacking output, Mbappe scored 40 goals last season. Real Madrid's issue last season wasn't attacking; it was the defensive side of things while playing with Vinicius Junior and Mbappe. A good example of this about the tactical problems you get with Mbappe. There was a moment, I think it was in the 87th, 88th minute, something like that. And Juventus had the ball, and it's Cambiasso in the left wing back situation. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cambiasso has the ball, and Mbappe's putting him under pressure, sprinting down on him. But because he's such an instinctive striker, what he does is he sprints behind him, assuming that Cambiasso was going to pass back to the goalkeeper. And he sniffs a goal, right? That's a great instinct. So he sprints by Cambiasso, but Cambiasso just dummies it and then moves up the pitch. And suddenly he's free to run 15, 20 yards into the Real Madrid half. And it could be a 2-on-1 against Trent Alexander-Arnold again. Now, there lies an issue tactically because a striker that knows their pressing duty knows that they don't press that side, they press the other side. So you force him to pass back to the goalkeeper. It means they'll probably keep the ball, but it keeps the ball away from your goal. Whereas Mbappe's instinct was, I smell a goal here, but therefore he left space behind him. And I think that's a really good example of the issues you get with Mbappe. Because yes, he will get goals. Yes, it will be exciting. But also, there are real issues when not just the implementation of a press, but the tactical knowledge of the press, like knowing where to sprint as opposed to when. And yeah, that it shows. I don't want to say selfishness because for strikers, selfishness is important. You need there's that killer instinct with scoring goals. But in a system where you rely on pressing patterns and trigger points, you all need to be in. And there's that great, incredible clip. I think you referenced it at one point, Leo, this week of Luis Enrique. When Mbappe was at Paris Saint-Germain, there's that clip of him yelling at Mbappe about how he needs buy-in from everybody. If you're on the pitch, you do this, or it all fails. And it still rings true, right? And Luis Enrique's now found players that fit his system, that will do his instructions, and they're reaping the rewards of it.
Yeah, and that was the main problem of Mbappe at PSG, the fact that he didn't want or cannot cover the pressing Enrique asked. And as we know, Enrique is a big fan of pressure. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how Xabi Alonso deals with Mbappe, because he will need to run. Yesterday, Xabi Alonso said that his team and his players particularly will need to enjoy having to make some runs, to press and to play without the ball. So it will be interesting to see how Mbappe will do, because he's not a great fan of running just to press. He wants the ball, he wants to shoot, he wants to score. He's a killer, as you said, and yeah, it will be quite interesting.
And now we have a European bracket. PSG, Bayern, Real Madrid, and Borussia, and then everyone else will include Chelsea in that. Al Hilal, Palmeiras, and Chelsea. The rest of the world, as they're saying now, the two Brazilian teams, Saudi and Chelsea. Chelsea, I guess, counts as three squads at this point with everybody they're signing.
But they got another striker. They got another one.
It's at some point, like I don't understand how they can just keep signing players with no repercussions.
Well, they keep finding these loopholes. They sold the club hotel to themselves. They sold the women's team. They're like, there. I mean, I don't know what else they're going to sell. I'm not sure what else there is. They just sort of start selling bits of the stadium to fans. But
he's a good guy. He's smart. These guys, that's he owns the Dodgers as well. And he's a businessman, so they know how to get around that stuff. The second contest, it's 4th of July, so that here it's a holiday. It's in Philadelphia, obviously home of all the stuff. They'll have a match in Philadelphia on next year at the World Cup on the 4th of July, which will be the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence and all this stuff. Fluminense plays Al Hilal 3:00 Eastern time in Orlando. If you're going to get some weather, that's where it's going to be. Philadelphia is supposed to be nice on Saturday. Palmeiras at 9:00 plays Chelsea. Real late match there on Friday night. Saturday the matches are at 12 and 4. They got the matches all over the place once again. I think here's Pedro. Everyone's looking, I would think everyone's looking at PSG and Bayern, but all these other matches have interesting connotations, and we could get two Brazilian teams in the semifinal. You could get Al Hilal and Chelsea. I think that side is wide open. I would say I wouldn't be stunned if any of those teams got through. And then, you have the two rematches of the Champions League finals from 2020 and 2024 and big time teams, the heavyweight teams left. Which, Pedro, how's it going? Which quarterfinal match are you looking forward to the most?
Just to tell you, there's a heat wave in Portugal, in south of Spain. I'm completely sweating. Temperatures are so high. I'm sorry, guys. It's really so high.
The same here, Pedro.
It's really so. I cannot go to the beach before 5:30. It's incredible. It's incredible, guys. I hope the weather can get better. Let me just tell you one thing, like Leo. Manchester City game against Al Ahly. It was like a fairy tale for Al Ahly. I dropped you a message, guys, like 3:00 in the morning. It is true, or am I dreaming?
Al Ahly are eliminated. Al Hilal.
Al Hilal. Okay. So it was amazing. It was amazing. They make the game of their lives. Absolutely incredible match. So yesterday I was watching Dortmund game. It was the night slate, and the striker Guzari. It's a guy with killer instinct. My God, how the guy move in the box, how he take the opponent from him, how he shoot to the target very efficiently. It's really a striker with killer instinct. So they gave 2 goals advantage. I thought it was an easy second half, but it was not, because in the beginning of the second half, Monterrey scores and opened the game. So the game was open till the end, and we have that head from 𝐊𝐢𝐜𝐤, the ball with the spin. If he didn't give so much spin to the ball, I think he should score.
Yeah.
And equalize the game. So it was also an open game. And you are asking me about the quarterfinals, right?
Yes.
The round of 8. Let me see if PSG can go through, because PSG is the champion, is the current champion of the Champions League. So it's the best team in Europe. I hope them go through, so Europe can have PSG playing this tournament. Is what I'm wishing now.
And PSG is not Paris Saint-Germain, it's Portugal Saint-Germain, because they got a lot of Portuguese players.
Yeah.
No, you know, they take Nuno Mendes from Sporting. I was not prepared to lose Nuno Mendes. Mendes is really a good left wing, really good, world class.
Yeah.
Then you come, I think, to Porto. Yeah, the best left wing in the world. Then Vitinha in midfield. Do you know the finesse of Vitinha? My God, he's so smooth, so silky. My God, looks like a very good Bordeaux from Pomerol.
Yeah, but the thing is about Vitinha, like, I don't think anybody saw it coming. His move to Paris Saint-Germain was quite a surprise, because obviously before then he was playing for Wolverhampton Wanderers, and he was very underwhelming there. Although again, the Premier League is very physical in comparison. But again, I don't think anyone saw that. Oh yes, he's one of the best midfielders in the world. Not sure how that happened.
I tell you one thing. Then I appreciate more watch Ligue 1 than La Liga, because Ligue 1 is very competitive. The stadiums are full. The games are thrilling. You never know how ends the result. And La Liga, no, there's a big gap between 3-4 teams and the rest of the division. Some games, they are no funny. The Barcelona and Real Madrid wins by 3-4 goals. No funny, no story, no nothing.
Even if we have to note that last season's Liga was quite funny to watch, with a lot of good teams. There are a lot of great managers with ideas, good players. But yeah, if you are not, I'm talking to the viewers. If you are not used to watch Liga, I can only invite you to do so next season, because you could be surprised.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. Just while I remember, have Lyon lodged their appeal for the relegation yet?
Not yet.
They've run out of time, haven't they?
No, because
the deadline.
No, because as I explained, the DNCG has to send them the official notification.
Oh, I see.
And
it's
they didn't.
Then, as opposed to the announcement.
Yeah.
Right.
From the receiving of the notification, they have 7 days, and on Sunday they didn't have send it. So yeah, we hope they will, but they take time to do it. So
I see. This is a real concern of mine, because obviously we talked before about, say, the Chargers facing Manchester City, and how that hanging over them sort of is complex about the integrity of the league going forward, because you don't know if they're going to have any punishments, what that means, what that impact is on this season or past seasons or next seasons. Likewise, Lyon. I think the fixtures were announced in Ligue 1 recently, and Lyon were listed, despite the fact they are officially relegated. So it's this strange thing where there are teams do you remember which team's meant to be staying up instead of Lyon? Because obviously,
I think it was Nancy.
Right. So Nancy, like, they should assume they're in Ligue 1 until otherwise. However, their fixtures have put them in League Two, in League Two. So it's how are clubs meant to deal with that? That's an impossible situation.
Yeah, it's complicated, but I think Lyon's status help them to gain some time, and there are a lot of things happening in the back. I don't know if you saw, but John Textor is no longer the president of the club. It's now Michel Kong. And Michael Gerlinger, who used to play at Bayern Munich and some great clubs in the previous years. So we have a lot of things happening.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
behind.
I thought Textor being replaced as chairman was for Olympique Lyonnais, the female team, as opposed to the men's team.
No, Michel Kong is the owner and president of OL Lyon, so yeah, the feminine, and Textor was the owner and president of Olympique Lyonnais, but it was just like that, and now he is no longer at Lyon.
Gosh, I mean, that's 2 football clubs he's lost really in the last week and a half.
Yeah.
Watch out, Botafogo.
And Molenbeek. But I think Molenbeek would love to lose him, to be honest.
Sorry, guys, slight tangent. Yeah, I just wanted to check on that because I haven't
no problem.
Updates. Well, I mean, one of the other interesting things about the quarterfinals is you've only got 5 undefeated teams left. But also 4 of them are facing each other. So Fluminense and 𝐊𝐤𝐜𝐤, they face each other. Dortmund and Real Madrid, they're undefeated. So at maximum, you're going to have 3 undefeated teams in the semi-final, although possibly fewer. It's quite strange to think that the only fixture where both teams have lost is Paris Saint-Germain and Bayern Munich, ironically.
Yeah, that's true, and it will be the biggest game of the tournament so far, or at least of the quarterfinal. And I agree with Pedro. This is the game everyone will certainly watch because from what they have shown, they are certainly 2 of the 3 or 4 best teams so far, and they are great players. Sean, they will be playing in New Jersey, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they will play in a big stadium.
It's the final. That's the final game of the day of the quarterfinal. So from that point on, that game and then the 2 semis and finals all be at MetLife. So the last 4 games of the whole tournament will be in New Jersey. There'd be no weather on the 5th with Mercedes at the Mercedes-Benz Atlanta. Obviously, no issues with that. So it's the 2 Friday matches are interesting to me. Fluminense and 𝐊𝐤𝐜𝐤, Palmeiras and Chelsea. I don't know which way either of these matches go. At this point now, after I put the jinx on Manchester City, you'd think Chelsea is the favorite in that side, but I don't know. I mean, Palmeiras could beat Chelsea. I wouldn't be stunned. So any of these teams, and obviously if 𝐊𝐤𝐜𝐤 plays like they did against City, they could win and come out of that side. But it's those matches on Friday are going to be really intriguing to watch.
Yeah. And you, Daniel, what is the match you will look for?
Yeah, like Sean was saying, possibly the most interesting one is Palmeiras-Chelsea. Palmeiras going into the tournaments, I think we thought they would go through from the group, but not necessarily win it ahead of Porto. But they just seem to do enough every single match. They are incredibly well organized defensively. The match against Botafogo was a bit, I was going to say, difficult. It was miserable. It was a miserable match, but they managed it. They did enough. They scored the goal. They defended well. That's what you need in knockout football from here on out. So, yeah, it's strange that they seem to be almost like we know exactly what they are and what they can offer, but the problem is trying to actually break it down. And I'm not convinced Chelsea are the team to necessarily do it. Yeah, so I think that's a particularly interesting one. I mean, Fluminense and 𝐊𝐤𝐤 is going to be a fun game because, I mean, I think everybody wins regardless of who goes through that. Because obviously just a non-European side making the semi-final is a huge deal. Fantastic. Yeah. And then obviously, as Sean pointed out right at the beginning of today's episode, the bottom half of the draw, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund. I mean, that could be the semi-final of the Champions League. So, I mean, at least it's contained to one half of the draw. My worry was that it was going to be the entire quarterfinal, but at least it's the bottom half is just that, and the top half is the fun, unpredictable bit. So Palmeiras Chelsea could be the one to watch, the intrigue.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll dive more into that tomorrow. The previews of these 4 matches as we get ready for Friday and Saturday, and we also have going to start having some updates from the Women's Euros, which starts today. Daniel will have a preview on there. Pedro leaves.
I just have a question for you, Daniel, concerning the Women's Euros, because it takes place in Switzerland, and Switzerland doesn't play the first game of the tournament. Do you know why?
No, but they're playing the second game, so they're playing the evening slot, which is considering it's a Wednesday, is the main slot. So I think the first kickoff is 5:00, which is and that's 5:00 my time. So that'll be I think 6:00 in Switzerland, but then I think it's 8:00, 9:00 kickoff for the Switzerland match. So yeah, I think it's more that they get the headline act as opposed to the opening one. But that's more of a done thing these days with big tournaments, in which they sort of the host nation play in the opening day, but not necessarily the first game.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, ironically, like there are real worries about the weather in Switzerland as well. They're having, I mean, as is a lot of Europe, they're having a real heat wave. They're having like intense heat, but obviously it's not comparable. Like the US is like high 30 degrees, 40 degrees, and Switzerland is about 33, 34. But still, like they've got similar images where players are having to douse themselves with water, huge fans on the side of the pitch, worrying about the grass setting fire, that kind of thing. So it's interesting that actually the same thing is happening in Europe, but the big difference is, well, no threats of thunderstorms, so there's no worries about that. The matches are all in the afternoon or evening, so significantly cooler than playing at midday, which is insane. But also it's meant to be temporary, so it's the idea like then next week it should be like mid-20s, which is not so bad, and all of Europe's used to playing in that temperature.
Who's your favorite to win the tournament?
Well, it's really interesting because obviously Spain are the world champions and have become the dominant force of women's football, but until the World Cup they weren't that good. They hadn't won anything before then. They still haven't won Women's Euros. I think Spain are definitely the favourites. I think on paper the strongest squad is probably England's, in regards to all of their players playing in like really top quality leagues and regularly and for good teams and just Champions League as well. But I would personally, who did I put down? There are a couple of teams. Sorry, I wrote the report at 2 a.m, so I've actually forgotten my notes.
So people will have to read your report.
Oh yeah, you have to read the thing.
It'll be up in moments.
Thank you. But yes, I think I put a little note to say, first of all, watch out for Germany. Germany have dominated women's football. I mean, basically since women's football international tournaments became a thing back in the early 80s. It's been World Cups were mostly USA and European Championships were mostly Germany. In the last couple of tournaments, Germany have gone off the boil, but they are back. Like they are going into the tournament with great form, great players, and there's a real momentum behind them. And I would say perhaps the dark horses it's actually another team in that group, Sweden. Sweden are going into the tournament with good form, some really good attacking players. And also, never discount France, although they do seem to stumble.
They always disappoint.
The one thing I would say is much like the Club World Cup has become now, I'm really looking forward to the knockout stage because, first of all, there are 16 teams. We discussed this before, Leo. The beautiful, like the old format of the European Championship was perfect.
Yeah,
Only top two teams from 4 groups, and then you go straight into the quarterfinals. It's like filled with quality, and it's so difficult. But much like this Club World Cup, the top half is a lot easier than the bottom half. So in the top half of the draw, you have in Group A, you've got Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Switzerland, and then Group B, you've got Belgium, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. Only Spain are in the top 12 in the world. So Spain, basically, assuming it goes to form, Spain have a clear path to the semi-final. And likewise, bottom half of the draw, in Group C, you've got Germany, Sweden, and Denmark are a decent team as well. But Germany, Sweden. But then Group D, oh my goodness. England, France, the Netherlands. All 3 legitimately could win the tournament. Netherlands won the 2017. England are the defending champions. And one of them will be eliminated in the group stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And whoever wins that group will play the runner-up between Germany and Sweden, probably. So yeah, between C and D, you're going to lose a lot of good teams by the semi-final. And yet in the top half of the draw, 1 or 2 outsiders could get through, So stranger things have happened. Greece won the European Championship in 2004 out of absolutely nowhere. It's a bit different in women's football because it is so dominated by 3 or 4 teams. But yeah, I say I think we're going to get a really fun lineup in the quarters and the semis. So that's really exciting.
Okay, interesting. And Pedro, what do you think about the Portuguese feminine chances at the Euros?
Let me tell you one thing. I completely forget to tell you. Benfica, it's the best feminine team. They play in Estádio da Luz, the main stage, in the same pitch that the males. The attendance, it's around 40,000 people. 40,000 people to watch Benfica in a lower competitive league like the Portuguese Women's League. Yes, the Women's League in Portugal is growing. Benfica plays the champion. I think Benfica reach the semi-finals. The final of the Women's Champions League, it was in Sporting Stadium. This year, I think won by Arsenal. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
correct me.
Blackstenius got the only goal.
Yeah. And yes, it's growing. I think have chances to fight, at least chances to fight. It's growing. The women's league it's growing anywhere. Do you know that the WNBA it's already a billionaire business? I don't know if Sean follows the WNBA in the United States. It's broadcasted for many countries.
Yeah.
The players are professional, well paid.
Yeah, the WNBA was miles ahead of other women's sports for this.
Yeah. For me, it's positive because you know that women in athletics have the same prestige of the men, almost. If you go to the Olympic Games, you follow the women and the men's at the same level. Okay, but not in other sports. But now things start to be more balanced because if you want the women's leagues to be professional, they must be advertised. They need to be broadcast. People must attend to the stadiums, and the sponsor must show up. People who want to invest must show up to make the things run. It's like in the other business, as you know. But I like to watch the humans play very well. Also, it's very interesting to follow.
I completely agree, but also I will point out how fun it is for men talking about the women's sport. Right, so before we go, I thought I'd add another, because we're doing some quiz questions at the end of these episodes recently. At the end of the round of 16, obviously the maximum each team has played is 4 games. Currently, the top, I'm sure you guys know this, currently the top goal scorer in the Club World Cup is?
Ramos?
Garcia?
Yeah.
No. Because
Pedro, you should know this one. Who was the top goal scorer in the Club World Cup? Place one of your lists.
I'm sorry. It's loud on the streets. As I told you. I'm in a beach resort. I'm in a beach resort.
Right. Okay. It's Ángel Di Maria. Ángel Di Maria.
Okay.
Is the current top goal scorer. But of course he's the only one with 4 goals.
But
and
he
scored 4 penalties, which is quite unusual. Sorry.
Let me share one thing with you. Then, do you know that 𝐊𝐢𝐜𝐤 was the best scorer in Europe, but Mbappé wants that golden foot, and why? Because in La Liga the factor is 2, and in Portuguese league the factor is 1.5 goals. So it's almost impossible to win. But 𝐊𝐢𝐜𝐤, it was the guy who scored more goals in the European leagues. The best.
Although, funny enough, I'm still not Gyökeres.
The golden foot.
But the next question I was going to say, so there's only one player on 4 goals, that's Di Maria. How many players do you think have 3 goals in the tournament? So there's tie for second place. How many?
6.
Sean's going with 6.
I have Wydad Abu Ali. I have Gonzalo Garcia. Guirassy.
Right, go on, Leo, we're going to press you. We're on time here. Come on.
12.
Okay. No, I would say 5.
It's 12.
You're going with 5. You're saying 12. Okay. You're saying 12, Sean. I think it's 10.
Marcus Leonardo, Seo Guirassy, Bedram, Gonzalo Garcia, Harry Kane, Michael Olise, Erling Haaland, Kenan Yildiz, Phil Foden, Pedro Neto, Wissam Abu Ali, and Jamal.
Neto. You're absolutely right. It's 12. Apologies. Sorry. I think Neto
Are you cheating? Are you cheating, Sean?
I knew it.
Said 6.
I knew all of them.
But also things to consider in regards to that list. Yildiz, no longer in the tournament. Haaland, Foden, not in the tournament. Bertarami, no longer in the tournament. Abu Ali, not in the tournament. Same thing with, I think that's everyone else. So you've got Gonzalo Garcia, Serge Guirassy, Harry Kane, Marcus Leonardo, Jamal Musiala, Michael Olise, although 5 of those goals between those 2 was against Auckland, and you have Pedro Neto. So none of them are currently the top goal scorers, but only only 7 of them are still in the tournament. So the race for the Golden Boot is really hotting up. But also, just as a final note,
Hakimi could end up winning it because
he really could. He's on 2.
He's on 2, and they could play 3 more matches.
But also, it just kind of highlights, for example, obviously Bayern Munich have 3 players on that list. Again, they played Auckland. But it does also highlight that how teams are having to share around the goals. It's not one person dominating. And in Benfica's case, how reliant they were on penalties to get through the tournament. That was it. That was my little quiz.
Okay.
All right.
I like this one.
But just also quite interestingly, there's no one's got more than 2 assists. So also goals are coming from different places, but they're also being created from all over. So there's no sort of one dominant player.
Okay,
great.
That's interesting.
All right, so tomorrow we'll tune in. We're going to we'll break down these games a little more detail, and then we'll go through some of the opening day of the Women's Euros. Pedro will be coming from the beach. I'm not sure. I'll be at the beach as well. I have to find out my schedule for the next couple of days, but I will be at the beach going forward for a little bit. So we'll have half the crew at the beach, and then half the crew in the.
It's all right. I'll just go to stick my feet in the canal or something.
Yeah. We'll be I'll be on the boardwalk. So we'll do live from the boardwalk. All right. So make sure you tune in and make sure you read all the Steve Hopper and Daniel's articles from the Women's Euros, as we have boots on the ground and we have all kinds of different stories coming there daily. So make sure you're tuning into Sports Talk. See at the bottom, Sports Talk United. Get on the Instagram, get on the socials and all that stuff, and see videos. All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
See you
Have a
tomorrow.
good day.
See you tomorrow.